You've probably seen photos of yourself as a baby. Maybe you've watched old home videos. You've heard stories about your first steps, your first words, the first time you laughed. But there's one problem. You weren't really there, at least not in the way you're here right now. You lived those moments, every single one of them. Your eyes saw them, your ears heard them, your heart raced through them, and yet you can't remember any of it. How can someone live through years of their own life and remember almost nothing? Most people think those memories simply faded with time, that your brain slowly deleted them to make room for new ones. It sounds reasonable. It's also probably wrong, because modern neuroscience suggests something far stranger. The version of your brain that learned how to walk, how to speak, how to recognize your parents, and how to become the person you are today wasn't capable of storing memories the way your brain does now. In other words, the most important years of your life happened before the storyteller inside your head even existed. And once you understand why, you'll never think about your own childhood the same way again. Scientists have a name for this mystery: infantile amnesia. Despite how dramatic it sounds, it has nothing to do with disease or injury. It's simply the observation that almost everyone forgets nearly everything that happened during the first few years of life. Ask 100 people for their earliest memory. Most will describe something from around 3 or 4 years old. A birthday party, a family trip, the first day of school, a pet, a scraped knee. Very few people can remember anything before the age of 3, and even those memories are often incomplete. Just tiny snapshots floating in an ocean of forgotten time. What's even stranger, this happens almost everywhere. Different cultures, different languages, different lifestyles, different continents. The details of childhood may change. The blank beginning does not. For over a century, psychologists tried to explain why. One of the earliest explanations came from Sigmund Freud. Freud believed early memories were pushed out of consciousness because they contained emotionally difficult experiences. It was an influential idea, but modern brain science paints a very different picture. The problem isn't that your brain buried those memories. The problem is that your brain hadn't yet learned how to preserve them. To understand why, you first have to appreciate just how unusual human babies really are. Imagine a newborn horse. Within hours, it's standing. Soon after, it's running. A baby deer can follow its mother almost immediately. Many animals enter the world surprisingly prepared. Human babies don't. A human baby can't walk, can't talk, can't feed itself, can't even hold up its own head. Compared to most mammals, human babies seem astonishingly helpless. At first glance, that looks like a terrible design. Why would evolution produce such vulnerable offspring? The answer begins with one extraordinary organ: your brain. Humans have one of the largest brains relative to body size of any animal on Earth. That incredible brain came with a serious problem. A fully developed human brain simply wouldn't fit through the birth canal. Evolution faced a choice: either make the brain smaller, or let babies be born before much of the brain had finished developing. It chose the second option. In many ways, humans are born earlier than they should be. The months after birth are almost like an extension of pregnancy, except now, the brain is developing while experiencing the outside world. That turns out to be an enormous advantage. Instead of arriving pre-programmed for one environment, your brain begins learning almost immediately. Different languages, different climates, different foods, different social rules, different dangers, different opportunities. Every experience helps shape the brain. But there's a catch. A brain that's constantly rebuilding itself isn't very good at preserving detailed autobiographical memories. One structure plays an especially important role here: the hippocampus. Think of it as your brain's memory workshop. Every day, millions of sights, sounds, conversations, and experiences flow through it. The hippocampus decides what gets organized into lasting memories. Without it, your experiences would struggle to become part of your personal story. But in babies, that workshop is still under construction. New neurons are being created at an astonishing rate. Connections are constantly forming. Others are disappearing. Entire networks are reorganizing themselves. Imagine trying to write an encyclopedia, while the shelves, the pages, and even the language itself keep changing every few minutes. Could you expect perfect organization? Probably not. Researchers Frankland and Sheena Josselyn explored this exact idea. Their work suggested that the rapid creation of new neurons during infancy may actually disrupt older memories before they become stable. In simple terms, the very process that makes babies incredible learners may also erase yesterday while preparing for tomorrow. That sounds like a flaw, but evolution doesn't optimize for perfect memory. It optimizes for survival. Imagine remembering every single thing you've ever experienced, every leaf you walked past, every face in every crowd, every sound, every smell, every failed attempt to grab a toy. Your brain would drown in detail. Instead, it looks for patterns. Patterns matter far more than moments. Your brain isn't trying to become a museum. It's trying to become a prediction machine. That's why babies learn so much despite remembering so little. Long before they can describe the world, they've already started understanding it. A baby quickly learns which voice belongs to its mother, which faces feel safe, which sounds signal comfort, which expressions predict danger. Those lessons matter enormously, but they don't need to exist as memories you can replay like a movie. Instead, they become part of the operating system itself. You don't remember learning them, you simply use them. Psychologists often divide memory into different categories. One is explicit memory. These are memories you can consciously describe. Your last birthday, your favorite teacher, the time you embarrassed yourself in public. Another is implicit memory. These are skills, habits, emotional reactions, and unconscious expectations. You probably don't remember learning how to balance on a bicycle. You just know how. You don't consciously calculate how to understand your native language. Your brain simply does it. Babies rely heavily on this second kind of memory. Long before they can tell stories, they're building expectations about how the world works, who can be trusted, how emotions spread between people, what safety feels like, what comfort feels like. Developmental psychologist Patricia Bauer spent decades studying children's memory. Her research showed something fascinating. Young children absolutely can form memories. The problem isn't creating them. The problem is keeping them as the brain rapidly changes during the first years of life. It's a little like saving a file onto a computer, while someone keeps replacing the hard drive. Some information survives, much of it doesn't. Language adds another piece to the puzzle. Think about your own memories. Most are wrapped in words. You remember conversations, names, descriptions, stories. Language gives experiences structure. It lets your brain file events into an organized narrative. Babies don't have that. Before language, life is experienced as sensations. Images, sounds, textures, smells, emotions. As language develops, those raw experiences begin transforming into stories. Stories are much easier to remember than feelings alone. It's almost as if your memories had to wait for your brain to invent a narrator. But here's something even stranger. Some of your earliest memories may not actually be memories. Psychologist Elizabeth Loftus spent decades demonstrating how surprisingly flexible memory really is. Every time you remember something, you reconstruct it. You aren't playing back a recording, you're rebuilding the experience. Most of the time, your reconstruction is close to reality. Sometimes it's influenced by photographs, family stories, things other people told you, or details your brain quietly filled in. That's why siblings often disagree about childhood events. Each remembers a slightly different version, and both can feel completely certain. Memory isn't a camera. It's a storyteller. A remarkably useful storyteller, but not a perfect one. Then there are the experiences you'll never consciously remember, yet still carry with you every day. John Bowlby transformed our understanding of attachment. Later, Mary Ainsworth expanded that work with the famous strange situation experiments. Together, their research showed that the emotional bonds formed during infancy shape how children come to expect relationships to work. Long before you could explain love, your brain was learning what love felt like. Long before you understood trust, your nervous system was already measuring it. Those lessons don't disappear. They become part of the foundation beneath your conscious mind. Think about building a skyscraper. Nobody admires the concrete buried underground. People admire the glass, the steel, the height. But remove the foundation, and nothing else survives. Your earliest years are like that foundation. You can't see them, you can't revisit them, you can't replay them, yet almost everything built afterwards depends on them. This changes the way you think about identity. Most people assume they are the sum of their memories. And to some extent, that's true. Your memories help explain who you believe yourself to be. But the deepest parts of your personality began taking shape before your autobiographical memory even switched on. The way you respond to stress, the way you connect with people, the rhythms of comfort and fear. Many of those patterns started forming during years you'll never consciously revisit. In a strange way, the person who had the greatest influence on your life is someone you can never actually remember meeting. Your younger self, not the child in your earliest memory. The one before that. The one who learned to recognize faces, to smile back, to understand voices, to explore the world, to become you. That child disappeared long ago, not because they were forgotten, but because they became the architecture of your mind. Maybe that's the real purpose of those missing years. Not to give you stories, but to build the person who would eventually tell them. So the next time you look at an old photograph of yourself as a baby, remember this. You're looking at the busiest period your brain will ever experience. A time when billions of connections were being built, when your understanding of the world was taking shape, when your future personality was quietly under construction. You just won't remember watching it happen. And maybe that's the strangest part of all. You have lived every single second of your life, even the ones that made you who you are, without ever becoming memories at all.